Good Monday morning and welcome to Opening Bid. I'm Brooke DePalma. Here's what we're watching. It's the first full week of May trading kicks off with more big tech earnings on deck, including results from Palantir coming today after the bell. And there's still geopolitical tension in the Middle East with traffic through the Strait of Hormuz pretty much still at a standstill as President Trump promises to free up ships. And GameStop, get this story, it's offering to buy eBay in a combination cash stock deal worth $55 billion, despite having a market cap closer to $12 billion. Here to break it all down, we have Lee Munson, Portfolio Wealth Advisors, President and CIO, alongside Yahoo Finance's Jared Blickery and Inez Foray. Jared, let's kick things off with you. April had a breakout month. It was the best monthly gain since 2020. What sort of momentum can we expect moving into May?
Yeah, absolutely phenomenal when you think about where we were coming from. Another quick rise to record highs and just rocketing higher. So I have some quick stats here from Ryan Dietrich. The last 12 of 13 years, May was up. So the only exception was 2019. The old phrase, sell in May and go away, long since outdated. Doesn't mean that we couldn't have some hiccups here, but I would not be surprised to see higher highs in the future. Now, the one thing I've been focusing on is breadth, market participation, because once again, we see this as kind of a narrow rally, and that can happen. You can have markets climbing to new highs all the time, but they tend to surprise people when you eventually see that weakness. And if there's that weakness masked underneath the surface, they can take the elevator down.
Lee, this seems like a market that is moving its focus back to AI. We do have Palantir reporting today after the close. It had a massive run up in 2025, but year to date, that stock under pressure. What do you think investors need to hear from this report today to give them that confidence back?
Well, they need to hear that we're still getting an ROI. They need to hear that there's still a secular story here. There's been all this talk in private credit about a lot of the borrowing for these call centers, but I think with Palantir, we want to make sure that those government contracts are coming in and that there's always going to be, is this still a story with legs? Are we still going to be getting exceptional double-digit quarter-over-quarter growth like we saw last year? If we don't get continuation, I think it's game over. But you can see from the price action, there's sort of a bifurcation between, stocks like NVIDIA. NVIDIA is still doing great, but, what has it done over the last 6 months? You got Microsoft. Microsoft is basically sort of in a corrective, go no place situation. So you're going to look at some of these new names. Is AMD going to be able to deliver? Is Palantir going to be able to deliver? And I think you have to sort of look at what the new fresh mega cap stocks are versus, what we might traditionally think of the Magnificent Seven.
Lee, what are those other 493? What are you keeping a lookout in this market for?
Right now, I think it's really a matter of people love everything that's in the SOX, the SOX, the semiconductors. You're still seeing things like Micron and Western Digital, things that, I kind of consider more like commodity stocks. Those are really hot right now. That's where the traders, my 13-year-old son is still long and not wrong on AMD. And so I think that shift from everything is just NVIDIA's world. Everything is just, Microsoft. It's not happening with Copilot. So I would stick with some of what I consider sort of the secondary, tertiary names, like an AMD, like a Micron. Even Broadcom looks pretty good, and Palantir. But I think you have to make that shift to those secondary names that we might have suggested last year.
Let's stick with AMD because, Inez, they are reporting before the bell on Tuesday. What is Wall Street expecting from this story? And on top of that, too, how does a company like Palantir break out from this software narrative, this SaaSpocalypse that we've been hearing so much about?
Okay, well, first of all,
sorry, Inez, go ahead.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, you just mentioned Palantir, and Lee was just talking about Palantir, and it's been dragged down by the software sector. But if you take a look at what the street is expecting, it's expecting its revenue to increase by 74%. It's expecting profits to double year over year. And on both sides of the equation, the street is expecting this company to keep growing. And that means the government contracts, and that means the business contracts, which have been accelerating. So you are seeing bullishness from the street when it comes to, for example, Oppenheimer. They just initiated coverage last week on this stock with an outperform rating, talking about its ontology architecture, talking about its AI leadership, and the fact that the applications, once these applications are embedded, the cost to switch is much more costlier. So basically, this creates a sort of stickiness with their business model as well.
Lee, 30 seconds on this one. Is the SaaS apocalypse fear over just yet?
I don't think the fear is over. I think it's real. I think you have very big legacy issues with a place like Adobe. And then I think you have unstoppable Goliaths that can't be beat by Palantir, like Palantir. It's just a matter of the valuations can make you seasick on both ends.
Let's talk about another narrative that really is moving this market, and that is oil. And Nez, I want to come to you for this because we're hearing various sort of competing headlines on if U.S. ships did in fact pass through the Strait of Hormuz this morning. Iranian media saying that they've struck down with 2 missiles, a U.S. cargo ship passing through. What are you seeing within oil prices this morning, Inez? And what does this mean for gas prices moving into the summer? I mean, they're almost reaching $4.50. I'm like, give consumers a break here.
That's right. Brooke, look, you are seeing competing headlines, or conflicting headlines, I should say, when it comes to the Strait of Hormuz and that vessel that you just mentioned. You also have the U.S. saying that it's flagged 2 merchant vessels that have successfully made its way through the Strait of Hormuz. But as far as gasoline prices are concerned, you are watching right now Brent at around $110 a barrel. You're watching WTI at above 100. And as you mentioned, gasoline nearing $4.50. Very interesting note from JP Morgan basically saying that since the start of the war, gasoline prices have increased more than 42% in the U.S. And also from Andy Lippo basically making a call saying that if the Strait of Hormuz continues to be closed for another month, that's when you're going to see $5 a gallon of gasoline. So in a month, $5.
Lee, how worried are you about this ongoing narrative around oil prices? And does investors need to sort of look back to that? It seems like over the course of April, they turned an eye to it. Do investors need to refocus on the rising oil prices that we're still seeing now 10 weeks into this war?
Well, and we have what happens when the straits get opened up? All these ships aren't just going to move back tomorrow. I think investors that are not just in the secular tech story, that are not just in there buying chip stocks, semiconductor stocks, you have to start to worry, where's our forward guidance going to be? How are we going to get, double digits on small cap value, double digits on large cap value going into December if we're going to have a slowdown because of energy inputs? I think that we just can't see. I mean, how are you supposed to do forward guidance right now? Do investors just think this is all going to blow over in a week or two and just the ships are magically going to get to where they're going to be? What do we have with the European Central Bank? They're going to be raising rates. Australia's raising rates. So all of this is going to have a knock-on effect, but I think it's going to be slower to hit U.S. markets. So I think Jared, my buddy, could be right. I think this could be a nice May. You know why? Because we're all going to be with our heads stuck like ostriches down in the sand for another 30 days. But then when gas starts becoming $5 and industrials start to say, our input prices are actually moving up, and that's going to actually screw up next quarter, screw up earnings in the fall. That's when you're going to start seeing things coming in, and that's where I'm going to start selling my long treasuries and buying stock, because I don't think the Fed's going to give us relief in the next month.
I want to talk more about that. We'll have to keep the conversation going another day because I do want to get to this crazy story. GameStop looking to buy eBay. Now, keep in mind, the market cap of eBay is about 4 times larger than that of GameStop. And we recently spoke to eBay's CEO just to hear about how big the platform is. Take a listen to that.
We built a lot for collectors on the platform now. People are collecting Pokemon cards and trading cards and massive business. Collectibles for us is over $10 billion on the platform.
$10 billion?
Yeah, look, we have 5 categories in eBay that are over $10 billion. That's fashion, electronics, collectibles, home and garden, and motors, parts, and accessories.
GameStop's market cap is only about $12 billion. Make this math make sense here. Lee, go ahead.
I don't see any of this making sense. This just tells us not about M&A. It tells us about liquidity. It tells us where we are in speculation, where we are with ignoring everything we've been talking about with the war. But when you have a meme stock be able to just get us enough liquidity to buy maybe not really a culturally relevant platform like eBay, it's not gone. It's just not what it used to be. You know, I feel this is just like a meme stock buying one of those one-day nostalgia music festivals at the Rose Bowl these days. I think this just tells you that anybody can raise money, anybody can get liquidity, and I think it shows the froth on the M&A side.
And Nez, break down the market's reaction here, because we're already getting some notes from the street on what their take is on this potential acquisition here.
Yeah, and Citi analysts noting that GameStop may be trying to use their 1,600 retail stores basically to help eBay's business grow, especially when you talk about collectibles, fashion, person-to-person purchases. They want to bring back or push back this re-commerce. So that's an interesting take that they are making. It is a bold move when it comes to GameStop trying to sort of acquire this much bigger company.
Jared, maybe a side question here, but do you think that there's a world where this realistically, GameStop and eBay actually could end up competing with an Amazon, just given how much momentum Amazon has on all fronts here?
Contemplate that bizarre world. And here's the thing, eBay is not a bad company. This is just it's just kind of a ridiculous story, because where are they going to get the financing? Well, they can go to dilution, they can dilute their shareholders. We've seen this time and time again. That doesn't mean that they're automatically going to be able to compete with some of the best in the business. It's kind of a sideshow.
Lee, what's your message to investors here? Is this going to go away quickly? Will this be an ongoing narrative?
You know, I think GameStop is just trying to find a narrative right now to keep the stock relevant and keep the market makers happy. I would just move on to something else. I mean, my God, just go buy Palantir at a nosebleed PE and just hold your nose and buy something like that. Just anything but this. Trade options, learn to trade futures, anything but this. We got to get some adults in the room on these narratives.
I'm with you, Lee.
There's so many ways to make money right now that are solid. This is not one of them.
Lee, are you buying Palantir ahead of the report after the market bell today?
I own it in one of our systematics, and my systematic blew up and put Palantir all over the map a couple weeks ago. So I'm long in that.
Awesome. Well, big thanks to Lee, Jared, and Nez. Thank you all so much. Appreciate your time.